Missing a lot this morning. Ellie C, no, right? Alyssa C, no. No Casey yet? No Griffin yet, right? No Justin. No Alyssa N. No Lester yet. No Melanie yet. And no Alexandra yet, right? All righty, well, we will start. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. I hope all is well. This up for you. So as I said yesterday, we'll take a look at safety net programs as well as regulatory agencies in our government and our economic system. One thing I wanted to share with you when we take a look at these things, this is sort of what it means at a local level here. We talked about copyright and patents yesterday and the protections that those legal structures offer. The government also, right, wants to regulate safety. And I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but for a while now, there has been a push by some, mostly stationary car washes, for the city to step in and regulate mobile car washing entities. And so this fits right in with what we were discussing yesterday and today. And so real quick here, let me show you this. You'll get a kick out of this. But it brings up a good question. Oh. Hold on, why is my, there it is.
Brock, you aren't screen sharing.
Whoops. I didn't know they were going to finish. Hold on. I don't know what else she's got to say. Can't be that important, can it? There you go, right? So a couple of things fits right into what we are looking at today and what we're talking about in this unit. So a couple of things here. Let me bring this up and give you a sample. So this is regulation at a local level, right? The city has ordinances. There's certain things you can do in the city, and there's certain things that you cannot do, and it changes from city to city, place to place, state to state, maybe even county to county. But regulatory agencies are generally set up to implement and enforce laws. They regulate certain sectors of the economy. And at the federal level, it's overseen by the Congress. Now, here's an example where the City Council of Santa Maria is going to oversee this possible regulation that is set up. So you have a couple of things at play. And this goes really at the local level, the state level, and the federal level. You have a situation where in our free market system, right, people saw a need and they saw an opportunity for growth. And that was mobile car detailing, right? First thing, as was mentioned in the video yesterday, right, are the people that pay $75 to $100 to have their mobile car detailed or have their car mobile detailed, are they the same customers that would go through a drive-through for $5 to $13, right? That would be the one thing, if you have no skin in the game, that you would probably look at. The other, that the permanent car wash business owner talked about was fairness. We have to follow these environmental protection agencies about the Clean Water Act. You can't just dump stuff into the water. It was like we talked about yesterday in terms of the creation of acid rain. And you'll see that in the rain gutters around town, right? They have the little thing that, hey, this goes all the way out to the ocean. Don't dump oil in here. Don't dump other things. So from the city view, right, if you were to look at this, the city could make money off of permits, right? But then, of course, you've got to set up an enforcement agency, or do you give it to another existing agency to enforce that? There are a number of different things going on, but this is what happens in our free enterprise system. So when we look at regulatory agencies, they're basically to protect and make sure that things are done safely. So we have a number of federal regulatory agencies. The FDA that we talked about, right? They have been in charge of this vaccine rollout, making sure that it's safe, the clinical trials, overviewing the data, et cetera. You have the Federal Trade Commission, right? Ensures fair competition and protects consumers. You have the Federal Communications Commission. They regulate communication by radio, telephone, telegraph, television, and also now obviously probably some of the internet. The FAA we've talked about with airline deregulation, air transportation safety. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, right? They make sure that people aren't discriminated against at work. The EPA was mentioned in this story. Environmental Protection Agency establishes and enforces pollution standards. All of these things here to make sure that people in a free market, when they're doing these voluntary exchanges in their self-interest, are protected. Occupational and Safety Hazard Administration, regulations ensuring work conditions. If you have a part-time job or you're working somewhere in your break room, probably there is a poster of OSHA. And these are regulations that people have to set up in workplaces to let you know what your rights are. The Consumer Protection Safety Commission enforces federal safety standards. Their big thing, and probably most relevant to you or most popular enforcement, is toys, right? You get those little notices on toys. This is a choking hazard. This is meant for children 3 to 6, whatever it might be. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Diablo Canyon, right? The nuclear power reactor closest to us. It licenses and regulates non-military nuclear facilities. And then FDIC is set up. That's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and that comes about after the Great Depression to make sure that your bank deposits are safe. So remember, one of the things about the Great Depression last year from US history was when banks started to not have enough cash on hand, people rushed to the banks and pulled out all the cash that they had as fast as possible. That crashed the banking system. This guarantees your deposit by the federal government. So any banking institution you want to make sure is FDIC insured, because the federal government will guarantee your money even if the bank closes. All right. So here is a little overview of regulatory agencies. Get this up. Not as slow as yesterday, but not very good.
Alright, this is Crash Course Government and Politics, and today I'm going to talk a bit more about economic policy. Specifically, we're going to look at some of the broad goals of economic policy and some of the things that the government does to try to accomplish those goals. And we may even provide some examples of times when the government did accomplish them. So take that, skeptics, but I have to admit, a lot of the time the goals are just goals and aspirations, except me. And the government, since it's made up of people, is no different. Well, I do have one goal. Must ego, again. And I did it. Well, actually, the government is different because the economic goals are much bigger and more important than, say, my goal of punching people again. Although I would argue my goal is pretty important. So, what are these goals in economic policy? The first goal is promoting stable markets. We talked about how the government structures the market system in the last episode, so I probably don't need to repeat it. Since nobody wants a malfunctioning market, most of the things the government does to create a market system also work to make the system stable and predictable. Maintaining law and order and minimizing monopolies are examples of government actions that make the market system stable. Another government maintains law and order. Oh, that's a TV show. One of the more interesting ways, to me, that the government keeps markets predictable is through national regulations of things like automobile fuel efficiency standards. If there were no national regulations and states were allowed to set the rules, then it might be possible for car makers to try to build cars that live up to the mileage standards in Michigan, but not in California. And that would be anarchy. Well, maybe not anarchy exactly, but it would be good. And it would make it much more difficult for manufacturers to know what kind of cars to make. Also, you remember when California is the state with the biggest population making rules for the rest of us? Of course you know. The second major goal of economic policy is promoting economic prosperity. Here's another example of a situation where many people will tell you that the best way for the government to promote prosperity is to get out of the way. And they have a point. The government doesn't stop trying. So what does the government do to promote prosperity? For one thing, it tries to keep a positive investment climate and build confidence in the economy. One way the federal government can accomplish this is by regulating financial markets through the Securities and Exchange Commission, since people won't want to invest in the security markets if they think the game is safe. Another thing the government can do is still particularly Keynesian, spend money on public investment in things like highways and the internet. Well, not actually built by Al Gore. It did begin with the government program out of the Defense Department. The government also pays for research through the National Institutes of Health and the National Science Foundation, and enhances the workforce through education policy and immigration policy, all of which contribute to national prosperity. Another, and I don't least last way that the government can try to make the country more prosperous is by keeping inflation low. You can find out more about inflation from Crash Course Economics, but the main tool the government uses to control inflation is the Federal Reserve.
Okay, so as we've talked about, and as you probably remember through your U.S. history class, when the country starts to fail economically under Herbert Hoover's administration, Hoover, remember, was elected in 28, takes office in 29. You have the stock market crash in October of 29, and basically the next couple of years until the election of 32, the economy is in a free fall. And so when Roosevelt comes in, he basically says, look, here is the situation. And I'll sort of illustrate this for you. But if you remember, Roosevelt talks about the economy, and that the economy, if it were a circle, right, represented by a circle, it has been shrinking because there's not enough exchanges going on, right? Our economy is based on exchanges. And so as it continued to shrink, right, nobody has any money. Nobody's hiring because they don't have any money. Nobody's spending because they don't have any money. And the economy just continues to shrink and shrink. And so Roosevelt runs on a platform, basically, that the government needs to get involved. And we are going to throw money into the economy with some public works programs that's going to reverse this and take the economy back out and make it grow. Now, before that, the government had not really done anything to that point, all right? To that point. It was not something that had been done, not something had been considered. And so what you have during the 1930s and 1950s in these redistribution programs is growth, right? So Roosevelt wins 4 terms. He wins in 32, he wins in 36, he wins in 40, and he wins again a 4th term in 44, and of course dies before the end of the war. And then Harry Truman takes over. After Truman, you have Eisenhower, so it goes back to a Republican. But during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, I would really characterize the redistribution programs of the United States really as one of growth and expansion, all right? You have the Social Security Administration set up, provides pension to retired workers. The Federal Emergency Relief Act, aid to unemployed workers, give them money, let them start buying things that they need for their household. People will start hiring again. You have the Civil Works Act, the Public Works Act. These are all things that provided federal government money to build public works. If you go through a number of areas, especially on the East Coast, you'll see this bridge built by the PWA, or this bridge built by the WPA, Works Project Administration. All of these things. The Hoover Dam, southeast of Vegas, was built with this type of relief. Basically, let's put people to work to do these public works programs, and we'll get 2 things out of it. 1, money will be back in the economy. 2, we'll have a dam that we can use turbines and generate electricity for certain areas, and also help with water supply on the 7 states along the Colorado River. So the 30s, 40s, and 50s in these redistribution programs are basically a way of jumpstarting the economy, getting exchanges going. When exchanges happen, your circular flow model grows, your economy grows. Truman is the first president to suggest we should have a national minimum wage. This is the lowest that people should be paid. And then he also set up federal aid to war veterans after World War II. So in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, you have this growth and expansion of redistribution programs to help the economy get back going. When you look at the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the 60s, 70s, and 80s are really about basically creating what many people call a safety net program. And so a safety net program means that as our economy and as our country has developed, we consider that there is a minimum standard for people to be able to survive. It's called the poverty level. And these safety net programs are put in place by Kennedy, by Johnson, by Nixon, by Carter, to help people not fall below that poverty level. So you have Johnson's Great Society, where it expands welfare, school funding, creation of the Job Corps. You have, for the first time, Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare is health care for those on Social Security, those on retirement. So care for the elderly, aid for those below the poverty level. That's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. And then also during this time period, you have the food stamp program being established nationwide. So this is to help families who can't afford enough food to be able to provide for their families. So that is what the 60s, 70s, and 80s about. Now, as we moved into the 90s and the 2000s, you had an interesting situation. Reagan was president 81 through 89. He won the election in 80 and 84. His vice president, George Bush, won the election in 88. He served 89 to 93. And then President Clinton came in, a Democrat, two-term president. And when he wanted to look at sort of expanding different things that would be allowed, he looked at these back to work job training programs. And so what he had to do was come up with a agreement with the Republican controlled Congress. At the time, they held the House and the Senate. And what happened is he got the Republicans to agree to more aid for those who are out of work or who may be below the poverty level in exchange for a time limit that they can stay on. So it's called the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. So he not only got more money for them for a shorter amount of time, but he also got job training funds for that. And so what you see happen during this time is that the safety net programs from the federal government start to shrink. So really during this time period, you saw these programs, right, basically shrink in size, all right, shrink in size. You also have some private use of federal money. So President Bush, 2 terms, serves after Clinton. He wins the election in 2000, 2004, serves from 01 to 09. He gets these federal programs to open up to private industries. And his thinking and belief was these private industries, without a government bureaucracy, could probably do better, more efficiently, at a lower cost than government bureaucracies. And so you see during the 90s and the 2000s, this start to shrink. Now, towards the end of Bush's second term, one of the reasons that Obama wins the election in 2008 is that the economy was in a recession, right? 06, 07 recession. We've talked about this before. So you see this grow, and you had the Obama administration do something similar to what Roosevelt did in terms of public works projects. The 101 just south, basically from Carpinteria around the curve as you head to Ventura, all of that highway construction and the expansion of lanes and the addition of on-ramps and off-ramps all come from that funding during the Obama administrations. You had Trump win the 2016 election. He tried to shrink government and these programs and the amount of money that was going in there. But then during the pandemic, right, all of these relief bills have been passed. And so we'll see over the next couple of years what direction things go. The Biden administration, they got through their relief package is $1.9 trillion. So that is going to add to the debt, and we'll see what sort of relief that provides as they go through. Okay, so this is an overview. If you don't remember, let me reset this from Roosevelt and what he tried to do. This is basically the start of the redistribution programs.
We can't really hear it very well. There could be something on my end, but
So when you go back and you look at the things that Roosevelt did during this time period of expansion basically was all in hopes of getting exchanges going farther and farther, growing throughout different areas of the country. And so when you look at our free enterprise system, this is the first time that such a thing had taken place. Before that, generally the government regulated with some laws, some anti-monopoly laws, things like that, but they had never gotten involved in these safety net programs or redistribution programs to try to get the economy going. And so then that has been the tradition since this time period. That's why when you look at this closure and this shutdown, that's why you've had 2 COVID relief bills passed, because now the government sees the effects of what happens if we have a recession, even going into a depression, which you could have had as unemployment in 2020 approached record numbers, right? We almost had 20% of the people unemployed in this country. That would shrink the economy to dangerous levels. So that's why you had these things happen. And this is where the tradition of these things happening have come from. All right, so lastly, what you're gonna do is a short assignment on safety net programs. Basically, what the programs are, what they do, and who receives the money. And that is on formative. So there are 4 questions along with 6 of the safety net programs that all goes along with your notes from this section. That, along with your government case study, are the 2 things that are due on Monday, the 22nd by 3:15. So I put the notes back up on this assignment if you want. These are your formative review questions here, and then the questions over aid and what that does. Any questions for me? Perfect. We will see you then again on Monday. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.